She's standing over my patient with a suture removal kit before I even finish charting. She's cutting through sutures I placed 20 minutes ago, one by one, in front of him and his wife. He's an older guy, maybe 70, quiet, hadn't said much the whole visit except thank you when I finished. His wife's in the corner chair, arms crossed, watching like she's trying to figure out if this is normal. Now he's watching a second person open his wound back up. I remember thinking, did I miss something? Did I mess up the depth, leave a gap, misjudge the tension? My stomach dropped the way it does when you think you've hurt someone without meaning to. That kind of doubt hits fast in this job. You replay the whole repair in your head in about 2 seconds, looking for the mistake you're sure you must have made. She didn't say any of that. What she said was, "These aren't straight." That's it, that was the whole complaint. Now, here's the part that actually matters. The wound edges really do have to line up right. That's not me being picky about it. Properly opposed skin, properly averted edges, that's what heals clean. That's what keeps infection out. That's real medicine, not vanity. So on its face, "these aren't straight" sounds like a fair thing for an attending to say. Except that's not what she meant. She didn't mean it wasn't lined up for healing. She meant it wasn't lined up for looking at. Let me back up. Suturing is one of those skills everybody assumes is the hard part of this job. Like if you can tie a perfect surgeon's knot, you've made it. In training, they teach you a bunch of hand-tie techniques. One-handed tie, two-handed tie, all the fancy finger work you practice on a cushion at 2 in the morning trying not to fail your skills check. Here's the truth nobody puts in the brochure. In the ER, I use instrument tie almost every single time. Forceps, needle driver, done. The one-handed stuff, the surgical hand ties. That's a different world, the operating room, where you're in a cavity with your hands doing things instrument tie can't. Out here, what actually matters isn't your knot. It's knowing which stitch this wound needs and being fast and comfortable with your pickups and scissors. Simple interrupted for your basic low-tension cut. Mattress stitches, horizontal, vertical, when there's tension and you never want the edges to curl in. You need them to avert. Buried subQ stitches when there's dead space underneath that needs closing before you ever touch the surface. I'll be honest, I haven't placed one in years, but I know when a wound is screaming for it. The dissolvable suture down there does its job quietly under the surface where nobody ever sees it or compliments you on it, which honestly describes most of the actual medicine in this job. And staples. Staples are the friend of the ER. Scalp lacerations, big linear wounds on an arm or a leg. Staples go in fast, hold well, get you moving to the next patient. Never the face. That's the one rule you don't bend. Get the stitch wrong for the wound and you'll see it later. A mattress stitch on thin, low-tension skin that scars worse than it needed to, or a simple interrupted on a gaping wound that pulls apart before it heals. That's the actual skill, not the knot. None of it is about which technique looks more impressive. It's about matching the tool to the wound in front of you and moving on to the next one because there's always a next one. None of that was the problem with my patient. His borders were even. The skin was properly averted. The line I'd followed wasn't crooked. It sat right in a natural crease of his skin, the kind that was already there before he ever got hurt. I hadn't followed a mistake. I'd followed his own anatomy. She just didn't like how it looked to her eye, so she took it out. And she redid it her way in front of him, like my work was something to be corrected instead of something that was already right. That was her right, technically. She was the attending. The final call in that room was hers to make. But she didn't have one correction for my work, not one thing wrong with my technique or my judgment. She just didn't like it. So she did it her way. His wife didn't say anything either, but I remember the look on her face, somewhere between confused and embarrassed for both of us. I never sutured next to her again after that day, not because I was told not to, because I couldn't. Something about watching someone dismantle careful, correct work over a preference broke whatever trust we'd had. And the patient, I don't know what he walked away thinking about either of us, but I know it wasn't good. I'd spent real time with him, cleaning the wound, lining it up, talking him through it, checking in on how he was doing while I worked. All of that got erased in about 90 seconds, and not because it needed to be. 90 seconds undid 20 minutes. Here's what patients don't always hear out loud. Every wound that gets closed leaves a scar. Every single one. You can refer someone to plastics for a cosmetically sensitive repair, and sometimes that's exactly the right call. But it's not a guarantee of scarless skin. I watched a plastic surgeon outside any ER doing exactly what he was trained to do, leave a family member of mine with a scar across their face that never faded the way anyone hoped. Nobody warned my family member that could happen. We just assume plastics means invisible, and it doesn't always. Plastics isn't magic, it's a different trade-off, not a different universe. What the ER is actually chasing is simpler than perfect. Stop the bleeding. Keep the wound clean. Close it well enough that it heals. That's the job. Not a runway-ready scar, just a wound that's handled. Nobody's chart gets flagged for a stitch line that's slightly off-center. Charts get flagged for wounds that reopen, get infected, or have something left inside them that shouldn't be there. Those are the actual failures, not this. So when I think about that day now, years later, I don't think about my stitches anymore. I think about her. She left the ER I was working at in less than a year. Her reasons were her own. We never talked about it. Not because of me. There's an imperfection built into every shift. A good enough and moving on, that's the whole game here. Not a compromise. The ER never bends to fit someone who needs everything to line up exactly right. It chews up people who need every edge perfect before they can move to the next room. And it keeps the ones who can hold correct and imperfect in the same hand at the same time. I didn't need to be perfect that day. I needed to be correct, and I was. It just took me a long time to stop carrying the weight of somebody else's standard like it was mine to hold. I think about that old guy sometimes too. Not the wound, just him, sitting there while two people who were supposed to be on the same team disagreed over something that didn't matter to his healing at all. He didn't get a say in it. Neither did I, really. If you've ever done something that wasn't perfect, but you knew it was your best, and you had to make peace with that being enough, I'd genuinely like to hear about it in the comments. Because perfection was never the goal in the ER. Doing right by the person in front of you and then moving on to the next one is. And if this channel's the kind of honesty you want more of, hit subscribe and give this one a like if it landed somewhere. Not for the algorithm. Just so I know somebody out there gets it.